Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Radiantly Awakened podcast. I'm here with Elaina Ray. Elaina is a business strategist for coaches, personal development experts, and online personal brands. She is a success catalyst and mentor for female entrepreneurs and is passionate about helping more women become self-made millionaires and achieving true money, time, and lifestyle freedom. So, Elaina, would you like to introduce yourself further?
Hey guys, I'm so happy to be here on the show. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I am a business coach and I live out in Bali. And I think that kind of summarizes it in a lot of ways because I work with the type of free-spirited visionaries, creative and personal development junkie types that tend to live in places like Bali and all around the world. I have clients on absolutely every continent, which makes all of our calls very fun for time zones. So we're like, hello, Hawaii, hello, Australia, hello, Middle East. We've got everybody. And really help them to scale up their businesses and bring in more systems, more efficiency, more team, more support to just really take these, what are usually just solo run businesses to the next level, which we need them to go to spread this beautiful work in the world.
Amazing. So, yeah, tell us a bit about your journey. Tell us a bit about how you got into that specifically. It's like, I imagine you didn't wake up just one day and be like, I am going to be a business strategist for people who are aspiring to be millionaires and scale their businesses. So, how'd you get into it?
No, definitely not. I never even dreamed that my business would be a multi-million-dollar company at some point. I had no idea. Just truly following my heart. Well, I started out in corporate. I worked in New York City finance management consulting for a couple of years, and then worked in other corporate jobs around the world as like a product manager and like very mainstream, typical, you put a ladder in front of me and I'm going to climb it and I'm going to achieve that type of a background until soul said no. And yeah, funnily enough, I don't know why this is this is what's coming up today. I tell the story differently in every podcast, but I quit drinking spontaneously when I lived in Doha, Qatar, for a project. We were traveling the Middle East and Africa for like 2.5 years with this company. And I think that was a huge point where I can say I really woke up spiritually. I really like came home to my body, and I haven't, and I was just like a normal partier, just a normal kind of person that would go out and, I didn't have a problem with drinking at all. But that shift into like my health and coming home to my body gave me the spaciousness to start to listen inward and start to really like hear what I wanted to do. And I had been writing a blog on the side of my corporate job for years. It's Life Before 30. You guys can still go to Life Before 30. The OG Elaina Ray content. And I realized like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I need to quit this job. I need to go to India. I need to study yoga and meditation, and I need to write my and figure out some way to make a living through that. And that's pretty much what I did. I made a pact with myself. I left that job and traveled the world. And I've been, on the road for almost 10 years now outside of the US. And then that blog just slowly became this thing that I'm like, I love this. I love sharing inspiration with people. I love sharing my life experience. And I had inquiries coming in organically for people that wanted coaching. They wanted help. They wanted to create a similar career, a similar path that I had. And so it was just this organic thing that step by step really snowballed into becoming a multi-million-dollar coaching company and moving to Bali, where I could be with all the other people who were doing stuff like that. And I know that as well, my environment here in Bali and choosing to be in a place where there's so many entrepreneurs and so many like-minded people allowed my growth to really take off like crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So I just want to go back to, you mentioned like you had your awakening when you were out, was it traveling Africa and the Middle East? What sparked it? So that aside from you not drinking, like what was there a specific catalyst or anything that, you can remember specifically that was like the turning point for you?
No, it was literally a spontaneous awakening. It was honestly like from one day to the next. Like I went out on some Friday night and went to a fancy party at the W Hotel in Doha and went out with expat friends and we were sipping champagne. And then I think I just felt like the emptiness of that, or I felt the inherent wrongness of it for me and my alignment. And I just literally one day to the next, I was just like, I'm done with this. And I
Uh-huh.
quit, and I didn't expect to like, never drink alcohol again. And here I am, 7 years in May will be like my anniversary of that.
That's
May
amazing.
18th to 2015. I'll never forget the day. And it was just like, no, I need something different. It just dropped in, and I never went back to that lifestyle, and it changed everything, because then I didn't have those same friends. I didn't have the same patterns. I didn't use my time in that way anymore. My body was healthier. My channel was open, and I could start to hear what I needed to hear and go where I needed to go.
Did you do like more spiritual things before that? Like, did you do any yoga, anything like that? I'm just so curious. I'm like, wow.
No, I was the girl that went to, so after I quit that job, I did go on this 1.5 year trip around the world, and I did go to India. And while I was in India and many other countries, I sat a Vipassana, and that was the first time I ever meditated. I went to a 10-day Vipassana retreat.
Uh-huh.
Didn't know what I was getting myself into,
Oh,
for those of
wow.
you who So no, I didn't really have a background with spirituality, but I did have a connection to personal development and self-improvement more from the cognitive perspective. So I was always reading books around that and improving myself. And but the spiritual piece was very spontaneous.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's crazy.
I've
So
never
then
told this part of my story before.
you haven't?
Not in this way. No, it's really interesting that it's coming out.
That's awesome. Okay, so like going into more now, like starting the business, you mentioned that you had the blog and then people started asking you for coaching. Now, starting up your business strategist side of your business, did you ever feel like you were, in that hustle type of go, go, go mode, or how was that for you?
Yeah, well, and I guess I didn't answer the second part of your question originally. Was I started with the blog, and I started life coaching, I started career coaching. I coached on what I knew, and I just offered, one-off sessions for, it was like $100 an hour. And I was shocked that people were booking these. And then I was more shocked that they were getting amazing results and like quitting their jobs and changing their lives and finding the most amazing, revelations within themselves.
Wow.
But yeah, I started with that. And then it naturally, as the business accelerated, and I invested in my first business coach after I moved to Bali, which is a whole story in and of itself. And I started to understand online marketing and started to understand better how to structure a business like this, because I realized, wow, I love this and I would love to make this a full-time job. That was my biggest intention. I was like, I just want to make enough money to be able to live in Bali and to do the things that I love full time and not have to go back to corporate, because that's what I had been doing. I would travel, and then I would go back to a corporate job, save up, travel off the corporate savings. And it was in that kind of a cycle, which I didn't like. But it happened very organically. And then my business started to do better, and my clients started to see my life through working with me. And they're like, wow, I think I want to start my own business. Actually, I think I want to go down a similar track that you have. So it was a very organic unfolding of then people kind of like requesting the business strategy and requesting the business coaching and transitioning into that very effortlessly. And I think that's, one of the best things to do when you're growing a business like this is just to really listen to, like, what are people asking you for? What do people already come to you for? What do you already effortlessly embody through your life wisdom, and letting it be the obvious thing. But your question was around, like, did I ever really hustle inside my coaching business? Was that it?
Yeah, yeah.
No, not really. But there were definitely periods where I was ramping up in 2020. That was like the year that my business really exploded, where it kind of came to a head of a lot of growth happening at once. I booked out my private practice, and then I booked out a mastermind, and then I brought on a couple of team members. And there were some months in there where it felt like, oh my goodness, I'm on Zoom all day long. And if it's not for clients, then it's for sales calls, and then it's for meeting my team, or then it's for coming up with admin things that we needed to do, or marketing plans. And it just seemed to never stop for a period of time, because I didn't anticipate that growth. It kind of like knocked me over sideways.
Yeah.
And then I had to fall on my face and learn through it. And of course I had my coaches and mentors to help me through that process. And it's something I really like to help my clients prevent, because I just didn't see it coming. But when you see it coming, you plan for it, you prevent it. So it didn't come from this hustle of like, I need to make millions, and I'm like so like hungry for this. It was sort of an accidental mess that arose, needed to be addressed and cleaned up and and then we, very much cleaned it out. But lifestyle has always been at the center of why I had this business. I live in Bali. I do a lot of personal development work. I have a lot of time for retreats and my community, and that's all really important. I've up until recently, I was in a 2.5-year relationship. I had a lot of time for my partner. So that's always been at the center of how do I design a business that has scale, and that, we are doing, up to 200K cash months, which is crazy. Cause at some point I was like, all I want to do is make like 80K a year and top my IBF salary and I'll be happy. And now I make that in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And that has the lifestyle component, that has the ease, that has the feminine energy as well.
So with that, so what I'm picking up is like, it's never really been about lack. Like, I need to get this for some certain reason. It's just been like, it's kind of like flowed for you from your corporate career to the spiritual awakening to moving to, like, you just followed the nudges. Is that right?
Yeah, that's really it. And that's what I teach people. It's what a big part of my upcoming book that's coming out in June called Becoming Self-Made is about. It's that, really prioritizing your truth and prioritizing your alignment and prioritizing your desire and honoring that. And pretty much how I wound up where I am is every moment, even when it was scary and even when it was some crazy voice telling me what to do, I listened to it. I honored those nudges, and they took me every step of the way.
Wow. Yeah, I just got chills when you said that. There was a question there that I was going to ask off the back of that. I think it's like with me, when I started getting into trying to make my own business, it was very much a trying thing. It was more like, oh, I don't want to go back to corporate. What do I do? It wasn't something that I was like, I had the nudge, if that made sense. It wasn't something that something was telling me to do and I followed it. It was like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to go back to corporate. I don't want to do this. It was based off lack, I reckon. And I ended up just going, and it felt out of alignment for me because I don't know why I'm saying this, by the way. It's just coming up. It just felt out of alignment for me because I was pushing against something that just didn't want to happen. So it feels like when you talk and like just your energy, it's like everything's been off that lifestyle and just has been like you said, organic, and you've flowed with it. And that's why it's really worked. With me, the thing that's flowing for me is this podcasting, and like just I can't stop, right? And it didn't make sense to logical brain, because logical brain was like, oh, I don't want to do this because of that, and I won't make money like that, and all of this crap, right? So it's just interesting. Like, you're a perfect example of somebody who's just really just followed those nudges, stayed in alignment, and like, yeah, just flowed with it, and like look at where it's brought you. It's amazing.
Well, I think you just said something really brilliant when you said, like, I think that's what you said. You were like, I can't not to do this podcast, or like, it's just what's coming through me. And for me, that's always been writing. I started my business with a blog. I've been a writer. I was featured on Business Insider and Fast Company and Entrepreneur and Fortune, all of these outlets when I was still working in corporate. That was the thing that I couldn't stop doing. I couldn't stop writing. And whatever it is, people listening to this, you have to do the thing that you literally can't not do. That is your medicine, and it's going to come out of you one way or another. And that's what you can build your business off, and really listen to that. And your podcast and whatever that nudge is totally going to take you and make sense.
What would you say to somebody where like they're getting nudges to do things and it doesn't necessarily make sense to them, and they don't know how they're going to monetize it? Like, that's something that I feel it comes up a lot. It's like, okay, they have these talents. They're not even aware of the fact that they're talents, because of the fact that it just comes so effortlessly to people, and they don't know how they're going to monetize it. What would you say to that belief?
Well, I think there's two parts. There's the knowing that you're getting the nudge for a reason, and that it absolutely is the thing that you have to follow. And then the second thing is not expecting yourself to know how to monetize something. That's something that you learn. And this is a big part of my message and what I share is, just because you're a genius at one thing doesn't mean you're expected to know how to market it and sell it and create a business around it. That's where you get support. That's where you hire someone. That's the reason I exist and so many other business mentors exist, because we've already done it. So invest your money, invest your time, invest your energy like any other business would. If you look at startup world, they go and they get venture capital. If you look at other types of businesses, they take out loans to fund the business. They don't expect the business to generate money before the business has the capacity to generate money. They take it from somewhere else. They invest in themselves and in the company itself, and then it starts to generate money. And it's a big misconception for a lot of new entrepreneurs. They'll be like, well, I'll just kind of wait until I start to get some clients, or I start to understand how this works, and then I'll invest in my business, which actually makes zero sense and will hold them back. So that's a big, very practical thing. And I want to emphasize to people. And then I can just tell the story. I wrote a post about this just yesterday about my house in Bali. Like May 2020, so 2 months into the pandemic, the borders were closed. All the tourists had left. The economy had crashed here. It was the weirdest time in human history for everyone around the world. And I walked into the most beautiful villa ever that had just been finished being built. And, we were like, I had, wanted to move in with my partner. We had been together for about a year at that point. I walked through the door of this thing and I was like, oh my God, this is home. And I've been a nomad for 7 years. I have to have this place. But, the price tag was more than my business had ever earned, all put together and then some. And it's like no time to buy a luxury villa in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of like economic uncertainty. And I didn't have the money for it. And yet I still said yes, because I got that nudge and I signed this contract for this insane house. And you know what happened? I took that leap of faith and immediately like my business doubled. Immediately all the money came in for it. Immediately I could back myself and really get the evidence that when I say yes to something, I'm choosing what is right and aligned for me. But you don't know it. I didn't know it on that side. It felt scary. It felt irrational. It felt impractical, illogical. And then never mind, a year later, same thing came up where I decided to buy the land next door to it. And we're about 6 weeks from finishing a huge extension on that property. So it's like this mega amazing, it's like one of the best villas in all of Ubud, Bali. And that could have been seen as like totally reckless, totally crazy, didn't understand how it would work out. Is that a good investment? Do I know anything about real estate? Absolutely not. But did I feel called? Yes. And there's so much power in saying yes to things like that. And so I would say for anyone listening to that, like you're not going to feel certainty. You're not going to feel the emotions of readiness that doesn't exist in this world. You just have to feel the nudge, know that you're being pulled in that direction and say yes to it. And then after you say yes, the feelings will catch up to you. And then at that point, you'll probably feel a heightened sense of self and your own capability and your own certainty and confidence, but it doesn't happen until you go over that void.
So how do you develop that level of self-trust then? Because I know for a lot of people who are listening, they might listen to that and be like, well, that would just freak me out way too much. Like I would, have a nervous breakdown. Like they might get that nudge, but it might be clouded by, I don't know, trauma or like, doubt or whatever. So how do you cultivate that deeper level of self-trust?
With the little things first, I'm sitting on a beach and I'm getting this weird nudge to like get up and walk down the beach and go get a coconut at that random stand over there. And then you walk over and you meet this person you have the most serendipitous conversation with. And then it's like, oh, well, I was supposed to meet that person. I felt how that experience was and what that voice said and the sensation of it. And you got reinforcement and feedback that was the right thing to do.
Wow.
You do it when you have the tiny nudge of like, oh, this course, or oh, maybe I should reach out to that person and see like what that next program has to offer. And you're a little bit scared. It's not a huge investment, but it's, enough to, kind of make you think about it a little bit longer. And then you invest in the thing. It winds up being amazing. You learn what you need to learn. And then the confidence and that sense of, oh, right, that was that nudge. And it just builds on itself until the point where it's like, oh, I need to move to a different country. Okay. Oh, I need to buy this house in the middle of a pandemic. Okay. I need to go over across the room and like talk to this man and be immediately in a relationship with him. Like all real things I've had nudges to do and have happened. So it's a muscle. So
wait, what? No, can we just go back to I want to talk to this man and immediately be in a relationship with him? Okay, first of all, before you even go into that was amazing. And I 100% agree. And I absolutely love that answer because that has been my experience. And every time I go into a place of, further self-doubt, it is about trusting those little ones. So Amazing, thank you. But what? Please talk about. I want to go. I'm gonna go up to this man and then immediately be in a relationship with him. I don't think I can just let that one slide.
Well, there's a bit more of a story there, of course, but essentially, like my ex-partner, we met at this place called Ängsbacka in Sweden. It's a tantra conscious community, and we met at a summer festival there, and it was pretty much like that for us. I just felt like this warm, bubbling energy from across the room of this beautiful man, and he felt the same thing for me, and we had kind of crossed paths in Bali before. This is really like a whole story. For an hour telling the story of how I met my former partner. But essentially, we fell in love at this festival pretty much right away. He was with someone else. He broke up with her and immediately asked me to be together with him. He's from the Netherlands. We met in Sweden. I live in Bali. He moved to Bali. And then we were together for 2.5 years up until recently. And but it was that nudge of like, I feel something for this person. I just felt the first night that I saw him at the festival and I recognized him from Bali, but I just felt my body moving in his direction until I was standing in front of him. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here standing in front of you, but hi.
Here I am. Oh, that's magic. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing. This question is just coming up for me. It's not what I've written down. Do you think love blocks, money blocks, and then attracting the same, they're interrelated?
Yes, I talk about this all the time. I have entire master classes on my website about it because it's such a big topic. And it's one of those things where my clients who, if they have private time with me, will be on a private session and we'll map out their 7-figure plan and we'll map out the 100K months and we'll do all the changes to the product suite. And then if we have 10 minutes left over, they'll be like, okay, so tell me, how did you manifest your last partner? I'm single. I'm like, making all the money now. Like, tell me the things about love. And so, yes, where do I even start with this? This could be a whole podcast episode. What I would say about it is number one, about the alignment. Actually, when I was doing my business at the level that I was meant to, serving the people I was really meant to, saying the things I was really meant to, writing the things I was meant to, showing up the way that I was meant to, that led to simultaneously being on the timeline where I could meet the aligned person for me. If I wasn't true to myself, I would have never met him. And the same thing is true with money, and money responds to alignment. So when you're really doing the thing, doing your nudge, the thing that sounds crazy, but it's meant for you and it's the thing you can't not do, that is your alignment. That's where your millions are waiting for you on that timeline exclusively. And that's one big piece where the money and the men will line up for, I know, and all the time it happens in my masterminds. Women come in and they're like, yep, I want to learn how to build a business and make the money. And we're like, great. And at the same time, inevitably they manifest a man, or they'll get out of a relationship. Or I've had women declare, okay, I'm going to get pregnant this year, and they don't have a man. They just want to have a baby, a big intention. There's no man in sight. And I've had women then go on and manifest the man, get pregnant, get married, all very fast and in alignment. So other things that come to mind around this topic are definitely a sense of what I call like having this and not creating separation from it. So what I see a lot, what I noticed in myself before I met my partner, was a sense of like, that kind of love is for someone else. That kind of money is for someone else. That kind of experience of relationship has an otherness to it. It's like outside of me. And the truth is, if I desire that thing, it's already for me. It's already within me. It already is mine. It's available to all of us. And that kind of sense of internalization of this thing that I think I can't have, actually I can. And I start to see myself as the person who has that, then manifest that experience outside. And I rarely talk about manifestation or any of these type of things, but we use this kind of magic. And, I use it for myself, my clients use it, we combine it with the business strategies. But truly, when you convince yourself inside your own system that you are made for that kind of money, that you have that kind of money, you operate a business at that level, you have a relationship that feels a certain way, that has those certain qualities, it has no choice but to come into existence. I've thoroughly convinced myself that I'm a multi-millionaire. And it's only now, like in the next month or two, that the business is going to cross its multiple 7-figure mark. And it's just crazy to me because inside I'm like, our business is already a multiple 7-figure company. I'm confused because I've so thoroughly internalized that experience. And I've so thoroughly internalized the experience of my next partner already and what that's going to be like. So it's almost like weird that he's not here in this moment. It's like, there's a whole rant.
No, I love it. So so if somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, that sounds amazing, but how do I even start? Like, how do I even start? Like, they can't even fathom, like, let's say this person's like, I don't know, in a job that they don't like, or there's something that they don't like about their current circumstance, and they want something else, and they have an idea, or they have an idea of what they think they might want, but they think that's just so far away from what is possible. So without giving away all your secrets, what is like some advice that you'd have to that person?
Yeah, well, number one is noticing where you otherize it, noticing where you've held it out at arm's length from yourself. Notice where you have a story around it being for other people, but not for you, or it being too hard or too far away. That is the first part, because then you snap out of the spell. And then the next thing is, I didn't just go from sitting at my desk at IBM to thinking I'm going to run a multi-million-dollar company and live in Bali. And like, no, I did it one step at a time. For me, the first step was just starting to like embody and feel into the identity of being an entrepreneur, of being someone who can make money for myself. And like the first time I made $100 for myself, that was the breakthrough moment. It's like, wow, if I can make $100, I can make 1,000. If I can make 1,000, I can make 10,000. That's the hardest part, is your first $100, your first $1,000. It's going to be the hardest part of your whole shift into this, if it's something you desire. So just starting to be in that identity of, oh yeah, I'm someone who I can receive money not from this job and not from someone handing me a paycheck. What does that feel like? What would I, how would that feel? What kind of life would I be living if that was true for me? And you just start trying it on. Imagination. This is your gateway to creating things outside of you. Everything that's ever been in existence started in the mind, in the imagination. And then you like incrementally increase that. Then I would get into, I'm going to make $100,000 doing my soul work this year. And I remember being at Burning Man, and I was in this like EFT tapping session, and I'm like, I'm going to do this in the next year or two. I'm like, I'm going to find some way to make 6 figures doing my coaching, and just crying and not feeling like it was possible. But I just kept exercising the stretch into, and what if it was possible? And what if I was that person? What would I be feeling? Until it just builds and builds and builds. And yeah.
I love that.
The latest thing I've convinced myself of is I'm already a best-selling published author, but the book is still in the editing process. The manuscript's done, but it's not out yet. But inside of me, the book is done. Inside the book is amazing. Inside the book, everyone has seen the book. They love the book. The book is on Amazon. I've already internalized and calibrated to that being the next level of identity, which makes it happen faster. But if you can imagine it, it's yours already. For anyone listening, you're not going to imagine possibilities. Like, I've never imagined the possibility of like opening a grocery store chain in West Africa. That's not for me. And clearly I have, because I did work in startups in West Africa, but that was not the calling. It wasn't what I was meant to do. You're only going to get those callings for things you're meant to do.
Okay, so you believe that if you really want it and it really feels aligned with you, then that is for you. Yeah, there's a timeline there where you've already done it. So therefore, it's just a matter of, taking the next most aligned action that feels comfortable to you, or just a bit of a stretch to you, and then just continuing on that path. Is that like what you said? Am I hearing that right?
I mean, everything except the comfort part. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about that.
The biggest misconception, I think, where people really get held up is trying to wait for ready, trying to feel the emotional quality of ready before doing something that you can't possibly be ready for. You're never ready to go quit your job. You're never ready to start your own company. You're never ready to have a baby. You're never ready to make that commitment to that other person. You're never ready to put down that big first investment in your business. You do it because it is the next decision that is right. And you just choose it. And you do it for this, this higher vision, this higher purpose. In the moment, you can't possibly feel that it's comfortable or easy or right. And that's kind of how it's the right thing to do, because it's not going to be comfortable for you.
It's going to be just a bit out of your comfort zone, or a lot out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So so obviously, like, I'm just thinking, like, from a nervous system perspective, I do a lot of study, a lot of research. I have people on here talking about the nervous system all the time. So, I mean, like, for you, you mentioned that, it was an unfoldment for you. It was like the next, you followed those clues, you followed those nudges, you followed, what, the downloads that you got, right? What about people who, maybe like they have had issues with their nervous system, or, maybe they're prone to burnout, or, that next step or that bit out of their comfort zone scares the freaking shit out of them. So like, do you work with people where that's their issue, or, what advice would you have to those people?
Yeah, well, I get all kinds of people. I've had people that have been burnt out corporate professionals who work with me. People have been burnt out entrepreneurs who work with me. People have had all kinds of shades of experience of business. Definitely a lot of people come to me because they see the quality and the vibration of the business that I run. I think the biggest thing is I'm not a nervous system expert. I do not like support around this. I have someone on my team who's a trauma certified mindset coach who supports in our masterminds to some degree, but I'm very clear with my clients. I'm a business strategist. I'm here to tell you how to position yourself in the market, how to scale a business, how to make those decisions, how to hire a team, how to build a product suite that's going to sell, how to learn high ticket sales. I don't work with like the emotions that are going to come up. And my high level clients all work with psychotherapists on the side. It's a requirement. Like you have to work with a therapist to work with me because your stuff's going to come up no matter what it is, no matter what your background is. And I think I mentioned this because for some people listening to this, it's really good to have very strong boundaries and zones of genius in your business and not try to be all things to all people. And I think there were times in my business where I tried to be everyone's therapist because I'm naturally empathic and I am a healer and I do have a background in a lot of this stuff. I could go there, but that's not my zone of genius. And it gets into a gray area. A lot of coaches might go into their gray area with people where it's not actually safe for you to support a person in that way. That's a whole side tangent. What I would say is that largely what I see when people, and I don't work with people who are like super burnout and like want the magic pill to save themselves from their burnout. It's just, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the people who are like, my work fills me up. I love my work. I want to just make more money and reach more people with my work. And that's the vibe they're in. If they're in like burnt out, fear, like it's not going to be a fit. But what I would say is that those people tend to have a story running. And it's just a story. And that's what causes the nervous system strain. The story is, this is going to cost me. This work, serving others. And maybe they're also serving and overgiving and working outside of their zones of genius and pleasing and doing things that are outside of the integrity and boundaries of what they really need to be doing. But it's just a story. It's like, I operate the story of my work because it's what I'm meant to do, fills me up. My work nourishes me. Me doing this podcast with you today is a joy and a privilege. Me meeting with my clients and holding my mastermind sessions light me up. I do live streams because I like love to hear myself talk. I love to hear like the things out of my mouth. I'm like, that was brilliant. I needed to hear that for myself. I write things. I need to hear them. And then I share them with the world. I've always done that. It's like, this is my lesson I'm learning right now. I'm going to share with you. So if you can get into that energy around your business and find the thing that you genuinely feel that way about, you're not going to burn out. And so a lot of this is like post-traumatic burnout disorder from people who are doing misaligned work in the past or doing it in a misaligned way and then experiencing that because the body was in full resistance. Soul was like, no. But when you find the thing that your soul says yes to, your body is going to say yes to it and it actually becomes nourishing for you and it becomes easy. And then it becomes a state of overflow where you're nourished by your clients and your work and your writing and your speaking and whatever you're doing. And then you can create more from this state. And that's by and large what and the extent to which I'll work with someone around burnout is really just looking at that story and offering, okay, and how do we create the opposite story? How do you anchor into this truth? How do you really find the work and do the work that truly will feel this way for you without effort, without needing to be some far off reality? It just will drop in when it's the right thing.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. All right. And sorry, one sec. I haven't looked at any of these, by the way. I've just been asking you questions. I haven't looked at any of them. I'm just gonna look and see if there's anything else. Is there anything that you feel is like, I don't feel 100% complete, but I don't know what else there is. So I'm just scanning my notes.
I feel like you should keep this part in the recording of you checking your notes and being like, we didn't go off of any of these questions. Well, we have just been sitting here going on little tangents. Amazing.
I love it. I love it so much. The only other thing I could think of is, I mean, like the way that like you've explained like your journey and like just your energy in general, it just seems really like you've gone with the flow, right? You've surrendered to this, and it feels like you've just got this really amazing balance of like, you know, surrendering, knowing when to surrender, but then also knowing when to like go and get it, right? And I just want to know, like, what is the secret to that? Like how, because I myself, I can get really like, I can get really stuck in the masculine. For those of people who don't know what like masculine, feminine energy is, like yin and yang, masculine's your go, go, go structure energy. And feminine is like more like your go with the flow, more receptive energy. So just little lesson there, but like, it feels to me like you've got that balance down pat. Am I right in saying that? And if so, what's the secret to that for those of us who don't yet have that balance?
Well, thank you for saying that. It's definitely what I do in my business. I talk about this in my marketing, so it's good that I do embody it. And it's not been a natural, organic, I was born this way type of a thing. I swung from kind of one pole to the next. You know, started my business more in the flow of like, oh, I really love doing this, and it kind of guided me. And then there was a point where I'm like, I don't actually know what I'm doing. I need help. I need to learn marketing strategies. I need to learn online business. I need a coach. I need to learn the things and do the things. And then I went through a period like learning the things, doing the things, applying the things, implementing, being in action, until, you know, there were points where it was like, oh yeah, where there's calls all day long and then team and mastermind and sales, and it was all too much. I was like, okay, so I need to adjust and pivot again. I need to like listen again to how I want this to go. And then I wound up hiring someone who was very feminine to be a business coach to me. And then I learned a lot more of the energetics and the embodiment and the relaxing into my genius and all these different things that I learned from that person. And then because I couldn't really find someone who was very balanced, actually, I felt like I needed to hire certain expert doers and then experts that like lay back and receive and manifest. And then I'm the one that's going to combine those things together. And how it works now for me, or my experience with it, is I do what I know to do, and I am willing to apply myself and do all of the things from the masculine that make sense and that support my Shakti, that support the crazy genius. And you can ask my team. We have monthly sales plans. We have everything planned out, pretty much 6 months in advance. And I change my mind all the fucking time. So like I will be like, guys, I know we're going to launch that thing, but I don't know, I'm feeling this, let's do this instead. And everyone has to like pivot and catch up to the chaos, but then apply the structures and apply the strategies and apply the systems we already have in place to catering to the feminine in that. And they just kind of go back and forth, and it's a dance. And I view it as the systems and all of these things are very effective. They're very smart things to have in business. I'm willing to do all of the smart things in order to fundamentally have my Shakti be able to do whatever she wants and to create whatever is coming next. And yeah, and to know when I've done enough. And that's a muscle. It's not like something that, again, we have a perfect barometer around or anything like that. And it's different for everyone, but just kind of sensing, okay, I've put the things into place. Now is my time to feel sufficient. Now's the time the launch emails are set up. And now I'm going to a silent retreat for 4 days. I have done enough here. Or that this is, we didn't hit our monthly revenue goal, but this is enough. This is good for now. This is like contentment, groundedness, landing, like it's keeping that joy and the inspiration, the fluidity. It's kind of knowing when to switch in and out of those. And it's just a skill and practice. But I think I practice a lot the energy of sufficiency. Like, okay, I've done the things that I need to do.
Wow.
Now let's get back and see what happens.
I've got chills. The energy of practicing the skill of sufficiency. I love it. I love it so much. That is what I needed to hear. That was my medicine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry. Were you going to say more?
Oh, I think that pretty much summarizes that.
Yeah.
as much as I can for now.
Amazing. Thank you. I got chills as you were speaking. This has been so, so amazing. And whether someone wants to get into entrepreneurship or doesn't at all, there's just so much in here in this chat for everyone. So thank you so much, Elaina. How can people work with you?
You guys definitely, if you listen to this, DM me on Instagram, hey Elaina Ray, and just say like you heard our conversation and let me know what landed for you, what takeaways. I love just hearing feedback from these conversations. And then I run a Facebook group called Soul Level Shifts. You can find it by searching on Facebook, or you go to elainaray.com. And I recommend that you guys check out my free gifts, elainaray.com/free gifts. There's a sought after training and a millionaire in the making training that are both really, really good activations around both the strategy of how to get started in your business and reach potential buyers and monetize your genius, and then more elevated strategies around the energetics of embodying that identity or that future identity. If you resonate with the idea of like, why not? Why could I not be a millionaire with what I'm going to do? These will all really inspire you. So I welcome you there.
Awesome. I'll pop that in the show notes as well for those of you who are keen. Okay, thank you so much, Elaina. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening.